Welcome to the LOGSTAT, the Army's premier podcast on all things sustainment, where we analyze new developments, discuss current trends, and forge the path ahead for the next generation of sustainment soldiers. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the LOGSTAT. I'm your host, Captain Garett Pyle, coming at you today from the Pentagon, one of our very first live video podcast. So I'm very excited today to be able to jump in with you and actually talk to you today about a unique fellowship program, one that I imagine some of you have no idea even what it is. And today we're going to be discussing the General Omar Bradley Fellowship. And with me today, I'm going to have Major Ephesian Poinsette to kind of walk us through what this fellowship is, how you can become a part of it, what you're going to get out of it. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my guest today to give a quick introduction on himself, and we'll dive into this.
Hey, Garrett, glad to be with you. My name is Ephesian Poinsette, major type, ROTC graduate from Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm originally from North Carolina. Got an ROTC scholarship, commissioned as a quartermaster officer back in 2015. Right out of there, I went to Fort Drum, served in the 10th Mountain Division. Then I transitioned over to JBLM for an aide position, and then I did my command time for a support maintenance company down at Fort Hood. And here I am now in the Bradley Fellowship. I was a lieutenant serving in the Middle East back in 2017, and my battalion commander was like, "Hey, I think you should apply for the JCS internship." That's what it was called then. At the time, I had no idea what that meant. Just a young first lieutenant serving as the assistant S3 as a battle captain. I said, "Okay, sir, Roger." So then further on as I continued in my career, kept in touch with him, and he asked me, he said, "Hey, where's your packet for the JCS internship?" I said, "Oh, sir, that was a thing. Like, you're serious?"
You're really serious?
Yeah. So there I was in company command at the time. He had then become my brigade commander, and I looked up the Broadening Opportunity Catalog, the BOT catalog is commonly known as, and I saw the JCS R staff internship. And I looked at the requirements, and there I was like, "Okay, sir," I acknowledged. Took a look at the catalog, and a week later he said, "Hey, where's your packet?" So he stayed on me. He was the constant pressure, which I appreciated. But as I read through the summary of the fellowship, I got a sense that, okay, it's a Georgetown education. You get your master's from Georgetown, and then you get to serve on the Army staff and the Joint Staff, or the OSD or OSW staff in the Pentagon. So I said, okay. So I submitted my documents, which consisted of like a writing sample, letters of recommendation, and then the application had a couple essay questions on it, and obviously your last couple evals and such. And thereof I sent it. I got selected. So I was deployed at the time in Germany when I got selected. I was in company command. So it's, broadening opportunities are specifically for like post KD captains. So I got selected. It was myself and 19 other captains who were selected for this fellowship, and my family and I were off to DC. Spring is
Not good. Is this probably just for captains or post
Yeah,
KD captains?
yeah, post KD captains, and I think some early majors may be considered, and some have obviously promoted while in the fellowship. But yes, the time frame to apply is kind of like once you've, I say, begun KD or key development assignment and post KD. So a nugget for advice to the field is, I was talking to someone the other day. As you're starting your KD, begin thinking about your second and third assignment after that. And the Broadening Opportunity Catalog is a great place to look of what do you want to do next. And I'd say the key word in that is broadening. So, of course, you as a sustainer, you do your PL time, you do some staff time, then you go into company command, which is key development. But what do you like? Start thinking about what fellowship, what post, grad education I can gain, PME that I can gain, to kind of broaden myself as a logistician, as a professional.
And you bring up a great point. He's like, and I would also say, like, when you're looking at that the broadening catalog, and I remember I was lieutenant looking to that, and that's when I was in company command. I would tell my lieutenants, "Hey, get into this now," because some opportunities are very time specific.
Yeah.
When you can get into it. For instance, the Harding Fellowship that I'm with, it's one person.
Yeah.
every 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's not only is it competitive just to get it, it's right place and right time, and I know there's other fellowships like that.
Mhm.
So you need to, when you're young, just like, "Okay, what am I interested in?"
Mhm.
And or you have a great leader like you did saying, "Hey."
Yeah, they're pushing the gas like, "Hey, where are you at?" And to be honest, to your point, it is very time specific because when I did pull up the catalog, I said, "Well, that deadline passed, and okay, this deadline's in March." And a similar program is Army Congressional Fellowship.
Mhm.
So that was one I kind of applied to in tandem because they're both located in DC. We were living in at Fort Hood at the time, so it's like, okay, I moved to DC is a different environment. You're kind of at the Pentagon and exposed to the environment writ large. So I say, why not take the shot? But yes, as a young lieutenant, early, just promoted captain, definitely familiarize yourself with the catalog because each program, it's a multi-page document, I'll say, and it's a catalog for sure. They have multiple programs, and it spells out the requirements, the eligibility, the time frame, who you send it to, who's going, like if it's a board, a panel, or what have you. And it's definitely a good document to familiarize yourself because at your 4-year mark, you're invested. Like you're pinning on those railroad tracks. Like looking to become a field grade officer essentially. So how are you going to broaden and take your game to the next level?
Exactly. And to your point there, there's so many different
Mhm.
opportunities in that catalog, and
Mhm.
there always check it because it updates every year.
It does. It does.
And things are not only because the dates, of course, are gonna update when things are due, but sometimes fellowships come, sometimes
Mhm.
fellowships go, and as
Mhm.
you said, or change names in your case.
Yeah, yeah. So, a little more about the fellowship. I'll dive into it. So, it started as JCS internship, Joint Chief of Staff internship, but it's since become the General Omar N. Bradley Fellowship. And General Omar Bradley was the first chairman of the Joint Chiefs in our DoD history. And we start off with 1 year at Georgetown. We earn our master's in policy management. So, we PCS, I think early spring 2023, and we were in like a report date of 1 June. So our summer classes started June 2023. It's kind of like a summer intensive course where you do a week on, week off of summer courses. And kind of like your core electives, your core programming. And then in the fall and spring semesters, you are a full-time grad student. So they say it's like the best year of your life in a way because you go to school, go to campus, you go home to your family, you do your study, your requirement, any extracurricular activities you want to get into. And to be honest, that Georgetown year is as some people say, it's like taking a knee. But you do have a more civilianized schedule. For folks coming out of command, coming from overseas assignments, deployments, it's a way to kind of take the uniform off and, look inward, say, hey, who am I and what do I care about? What are the things that, as I'm continuing my career that I find valuable? Um,
I've heard it said talk about, like, self-maintenance on yourself.
Absolutely. So get your appointments. You attend different conferences or opportunities. And DC is a fruitful place to stumble upon a conference about artificial intelligence or defense contracting or a myriad of topics. So that Georgetown year was specifically that we're amongst the Georgetown population, Georgetown graduate community, and because the JCS internship or the Bradley Fellowship has been around for I'd say about 20 years, it's gained some notability, right? So the Georgetown community, the professors, they look forward to welcoming us to campus because they know as you mix with the civilian population, you bring a wealth of knowledge. And as I look to my left and right, I was one of 5 sustainers, I think, in my cohort. But I'm serving with infantrymen, field artillerymen, different maneuver, guys and gals that have a wealth of knowledge, and we're all convening upon Georgetown to learn policy management. I will be honest, I was like, "Hey, what is policy?" I was like, I was like, "Hey, where's Georgetown and what is policy? What does this actually mean?" And then so coming in as a captain, you've experienced the enterprise as a lieutenant and now as a captain. Now you get to see how the wheels kind of turn in the enterprise. So Georgetown was a good experience and a good exposure for that. Um, we had a couple meet and greets within the Pentagon, kind of introduce us to the director of the Army staff. Then we kind of set up our opportunities for the OSW or Joint Staff Year, and that's the second year of the fellowship. So I had an opportunity to serve in the chairman of the Joint Chiefs Public Affairs Office. So I did media and engagements for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. It was General CQ Brown and then General Kane. Um, Great experience, great opportunity, but I had fellow cohort members who were working in the Deputy Secretary of Defense's office. They were working travel engagement for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. They were working in the J5. They were working in different OSD offices because as a cohort, you're kind of scattered across the joint staff and the OSW staff, OSD, OSW. So it's you got a fellow in certain offices, right? So in the fellow network, it's like, hey, anybody got this chart? Anybody have this information? Or hey, can we, and we would do a good opportunity, or we would do a good job of pretty much meeting for lunch or grabbing coffee, or certain offices work closely with others. So as a fellowship cohort, you kind of grow, and we're one of the junior ranking people in the building, but we know we can kind of utilize our network to get certain things done.
I mean, that's huge right there.
Yeah.
It's so much in the Army, it's about who you know and building that community and staying close to your classmates you went to, your BOLIC with, your career courses, and like that's how you go. You said, like, hey, if someone doesn't know, if you don't know how to do something, I bet somebody else does.
Exactly.
And having that tight community that you had, it's so key to be able to, hey, to just meet up for lunch. And because you don't want to exist on an island and trying to go out by yourself and conquer the world. You need to have that community, and that's what you guys have built.
Yeah.
So it's made you not just develop and sharpen your toolkit stronger. It's like help the overall staff,
Yeah.
because then you're able to bounce ideas off each other, find better ways to do it. You're not reinventing the wheel every single time you do a project. So that's really good that you guys have stayed connected like that.
And definitely talking about broadening, right? So there was a logistics officer coming out of Georgetown, got my policy degree, policy master's, and I ended up in the chairman's public affairs office. I think when I had an opportunity to interview for the position, and what did I know about public affairs? It was very little, but I did know as a commander, a company commander, it was important to tell the story. It's always you had to communicate, to senior leaders, to the families back at home, or even, other military partners, like what you're doing. So taking pictures, producing storyboards, which I'm sure some lieutenant or captain is responsible for doing for the biweekly sit rep, right? Um, Coming into a public affairs shop, I was able to see strategic communications and what that meant for the senior military advisor to the Secretary of Defense and the president, right? So media engagements, I got an opportunity to work with, the big major news outlets and see what that means to work on the record or off the record, and background or deep background. So that truly pulled me out of a comfort space of LOGSTAT reports or maintenance reports or fuel consumption rates, et cetera, providing sustainment. But it put me into a space that allowed me to kind of broaden and grow. Um, so that was a unique experience that I would offer to anybody. From this broadening experience, I've been able to do that, earn a master's degree in policy, which was something that wasn't really on my bingo card for my career, but I was able to broaden into a space that now I look at defense policy, I look at international policy through a different lens. I now look at, how we as an enterprise communicate strategically, which delineates down to the tactical level. For example, things that were going on in Gaza, I was able to see how the building was kind of churning on it real time. And the messaging that we had as a department to the force or to the public. So that was very interesting to see. And as a sustainer, I kind of, as I understood water operations, watercraft operations, it was a little nugget to different experts or senior leaders say, hey, I know what a boat company does, or I know how, choppy weather or choppy water can impact sustainment, right? And that little nugget shifted the conversation, right? They're like, "Oh, good to know." Like, and sometimes being in the room is just as important as who's in the room. So this fellowship definitely gives you opportunity to be in the room kind of when the conversations are happening. And, sometimes the leader may look around the room and say, hey, what do you think, Captain so and so? And how are we, or what are we missing? And I think that's an impactful part of the fellowship.
Exactly. That's what's so key about getting yourself into
Mhm,
a broadening opportunity, a fellowship.
mhm,
It doesn't matter what it is because it gets you to see parts of the Army that you wouldn't see in the tactical side. Because you become, especially as sustainers,
mhm,
you just become so, and you, I don't want to say you can become very tunnel vision. Like, I
mhm,
just need to get my all my logs that you said, my logs that just focus on the numbers, the data,
Mm.
on the logistics. But when you get into a fellowship program, you get to see the bigger picture, so to speak, and it helps to really make you more well-rounded as an officer. So as you progress through your career, it gets you to see, especially before you hit field grade. And that's what's so key about doing it after your company command time. So now, before you become a field grade officer, you're able to understand, okay, this is the world that I'm getting into right now.
Yeah.
And as you alluded to, like all these things that you got to see through this fellowship program, seeing things here in the Pentagon live as decisions are being made. I mean, even for you, it's changed your career trajectory
Yeah, it has.
completely.
It
So
has. And it's something I appreciate and I look forward to as I continue to move on. So I completed my second year and now I'm currently serving the Army G4. And that's how we got to meet, right? So General Donahue came on board as a G4 and she mentioned the Harding Project, which as a Bradley Fellow, the Harding Project is one of the CSA's initiatives. And as a fellow, we've kind of been abreast about the Harding Project, about writing and the doctrine and being able to contribute to the conversation. So as soon as she said that, we reached out. We wanted to talk sustainment podcasting things, and within the G4, I've been a sustainer for 10 years, almost 11. And I learned things that I didn't even know. I was like, oh, there are multiple directors within the G4 and how they interact with AMC or how CASCOM plays into the conversation. And as we go through the Army continuous transformation kind of cycle, that the period that we're in now, seeing it real time and being a part of the conversations on Army food or OCIE reform or the OIB, and the transformation that it's undergoing, and understanding the logistics or the Army sustainment enterprise writ large is just as eye-opening, right? Um, so yes, I was selected to serve on the Army staff in the G4. We have other fellows across the Army staff. So in context again, you go to Georgetown, you get your degree, you go on the Army, the OSW staff, joint staff, you get this jointness to you, and then you come back to the Army staff, which is home, right? So now you put on your uniform again, and now you're talking amongst your peers and colleagues in a different language, right? I would akin it to having kind of a different dialect, right? So now you have a different perspective of jointness. I have Navy colleagues, I have Marine colleagues that I've earned or gained working on the OSW joint staff, that I can reach out. Air Force colleagues that I can gain a different perspective as I look in the Army realm of like, hey, I know someone who like what's the Air Force doing about this, or how's the Marine go about this, and compare notes. And that's just by being in the building for the last 18 months. So back on the Army staff, kind of going in the logistics realm, it's been a unique opportunity to see different rollout, especially with Army continuous transformation and what the chief is saying, what the secretary is saying, Secretary of the Army is saying, and how we kind of put it into practice. So I got a couple more months left on the Army staff, but I'll be very excited to kind of take what I've learned back to the field and put it in practice.
and just for clarification, with all this joint, does this count for joint credit?
Not necessarily. So it is kind of there are ways you can apply for joint credit, but I think as we continue to refine the fellowship, we're trying to get that a part of it. But as a captain, I think there are regulations on if you're in a joint JDAL billet and so forth. So the joint credit is something we're still working on.
Okay, and because I know that'll be a question a lot of the audience would ask,
Mm.
because it's like, okay, if I do this fellowship, do I get some of my joint credit?
Yeah, and to be honest, that's a conundrum that to the director of Army staff, they're very receptive in feedback that we as a fellowship give in ways that we can codify, continue to refine the fellowship to be one of the premier, one of the best opportunities experience for such a good population. So we've taken that feedback to the leaders that need it, and they're avidly working to advocate for us.
Next, I know that'll be very good. It's just want to be another benefit to the
Yeah,
program.
yeah, and 100%. It myriad of benefits and in context as you continue to look to serve long term. That is one of the premier benefits of it is having that joint access, accessibility, and the opportunity to walk away with that credit.
Exactly, and sometimes it's not on what's on paper. It's all about relationships,
Absolutely.
especially if you're going to be successful in your career or overall just successful in the force, is making the team they're serving with successful. It's
Mhm.
about building those relationships with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and on that, say I'm interested, in doing this fellowship.
Yeah.
If someone walked up to you and said, "Hey, I saw you did that fellowship, I'm interested." What are some good tips or tricks to going through the application process, or what you would say makes a good applicant?
Do well in your current job. So, you're gonna get, kind of boarded or reviewed based on past performance. So do well in what you're doing. Make sure you're giving your best. I would say start at the Bob catalog. Look at the requirements because they do shift from year to year. Um, and present your best self. That's what I would tell anyone. I think we talk amongst fellows is like, okay, how was your application? What was it like for you? How did you approach, how did you hear about it? And we all have different answers. So I think the secret sauce is yet to be discovered. But um I'm also amongst high caliber officers. So present your best self on paper and in person. Don't tell yourself no before you give them the opportunity to. So even if you feel like you're not a strong candidate, I would definitely say apply, because that plays into it because they just want to see, what high caliber offers do we have in the field that are, ready to serve at the next level and capable of serving at that level. So those are two or three of the things I would say do your job, check the catalog for the requirements, and then just present your best self.
Mhm. So, I'm an applicant, I got selected. Now I'm about to head to Georgetown. What should I expect when it comes to that experience?
I would say lean into your interest, right? One thing I did was I went back to my college days. So in college, I did community service in the Atlanta community. And hunger and homelessness were two issue topics that I served in the most. Um, So I leaned into that when I got to Georgetown. Okay, food security, where do we stand with that? Or affordable housing, what policy implications are there around that? So I actually did my capstone project, which is about a 30-page thesis on food insecurity in the military. Oddly enough, when I got to the G4, I was seeing the work that was done around campus style dining or the Army food program. So it was almost like, I foreshadowed myself into the G4. But once I got to Georgetown, I was able to talk with practitioners, talk with policy agents, if you will, in the DC community, writ large, national community about those topics. And so I was just able to immerse myself, draw the connection because you're also in class with the NPM program at Georgetown is a class of seasoned professionals. So everyone has at least 5 years in their career field and then they apply for this master's. But you're also amongst public policy students who coming straight out of undergrad, kind of doing the graduate program as early 20s. But you're amongst another high caliber set of people. Georgetown is not a middle tier school. Like it's pretty prominent. So you have access to Capitol Hill, you have access to the DC, K Street Avenue, if you will. And so I was able to lean into that. I was able to take opportunity to go to talks, go to different discussion, attend different conferences here in DC, and draw the connection because they're looking at me as a professional of the Department of Defense industry, right? So I can speak to that experience, but I'm also gaining more knowledge. So I would just say anyone who gets selected, go to Georgetown and lean into what you're interested in and just take advantage of that opportunity because you'll be surprised what you walk away with. I think it's a new perspective on yourself and how you see the world. And I think a new perspective on how we can inflect change within the world.
Exactly, and that gives you that because you said a little bit of that downtime,
Mhm.
do that maintenance on yourself, but it just really will help sharpen you,
Yeah.
being able to explore different things, as you said, get back to your college days, get back to that academia,
Mhm.
so that can help make you more well-rounded.
On a personal note, I was a 4U soccer coach for my son's soccer team. So I was chasing 4-year-olds, and serving my community, right? So I was able to get that time back with my family, but then also, inflecting that into the community as well. So it was good.
It's amazing, you be able to have that opportunity, not just
Yeah.
with your family, but as you
Mhm.
said, be able to volunteer or give back.
Mhm.
So because I know when you're in command, you just come out of
Yeah.
doing stuff like that, it can be done, but it's very
Mhm.
difficult
Yeah,
to be able to have the time to dedicate to that. So
absolutely.
now you have the time to be able to give back, be able to coach a team like that.
Mhm.
Um, so it's just another opportunity and huge benefit when it comes to doing these fellowship programs
Mhm.
is to help you out with that.
Yeah.
So you completed that, and now you're going to the joint staff. Any good advice for that portion of it?
Um,
Besides, I know we talked a lot about when it comes to relationships, knowing your team.
Everyone has a day one, and sometimes listening is the best thing you can do, right? Just being in the room is half the battle. Just listen, take it in, see how senior leaders make decisions, see how information is presented. There is a decision making process class you take at Georgetown. That's a part of the policy curriculum, but being able to apply that in reality is significant. You take information, you take data, information, you present it, and then you develop your course of actions, right? We take it from the MDMP process, military decision-making process, but now you're applying it in real time. But then on the joint staff or OSW realm, it's very different because it's a high churn, high stakes, high volume, environment because you're reporting information to the Secretary of War, you're reporting information to the Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, or 2-star, 3 stars. They're walking around the building like you're the junior person in the room, but your action officer vibe or your action officer efforts are very critical because we're trying to inform the force, inform senior leaders to make decisions, but then also do right by society, do right by the American public, and that's, day one in the Pentagon. It's bright, shiny. It's a huge museum. It's several corridors, several floors, but you're taking the job that the opportunity you're given, do it well, listen, contribute as a good teammate or good team player, and you'd be surprised how you can inflect change within the environment that you're in.
And still find your way around.
Yeah, and still find your way around. So it's good, but again, just being in the room is, taking notes or just being able to converse in certain spaces about certain topics and inserting different experiences you've had in the field. Maybe we're seeing this from a different way, like, and because in the DOT sphere in the Pentagon, it's we're here, the field is out there. So sometimes you have to kind of say, okay, let's put myself as a company commander. If I receive this from the top, what's my first action? Is it going to inflict more burden or is this going to alleviate a stress? And that's where I found myself last year on the joint staff is saying, okay, if I hear this message, is it causing more stress or is this communicating what I want to say? Or is that what they really want to hear? And how should we change or shift the narrative or shift the conversation to get a better outcome? So
Nice. So, one of the talking points we'll look at is you did the two different staffs.
mhm.
Okay.
I did one
Or,
staff, so I did joint
or,
staff, other fellows did OSA, so there's a choice, yeah.
or you said, do you get to choose?
There are 20 fellows, and they kinda slice it in half, so there are 10 opportunities on the joint staff, 10 opportunities on the OSW staff.
Okay.
So there's opportunities to interview, you get selected because 'cause you'll submit your bio resume packet, kinda like your baseball card, and you get an opportunity to interview, but you either go 1 or 2 paths.
Mm,
One
uh,
of 2 paths.
One of those two paths. So then after that, did you get to choose, hey, I want to go to the G4? Was it assigned to you? Like, how did that next step of the fellowship work?
That next step, similar in practice, and we're still refining that too. It's kind of like based on your interest, you can indicate, hey, I have an interest in, serving in, public affair, continued public affairs, or I can go back to my roots of going to G4. So there is a conundrum, and I think that we're working through how that selection process happens. There are some front office jobs in Army senior leader offices that have a like an interview process, rack and stack. But it again in an effort to broaden or continue to broaden or kind of hone you back into your skill set. That's where either you're selected or you're positioned in that in your next Army staff assignment.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this gives you different opportunities.
Yeah, because I mean, I've known people from previous cohorts that discover they have an interest in ledge affairs, so they may do OSD or joint staff ledge affairs, and then they transition to OCLL, to do continued ledge affairs, and that's just again either broadening their apparatus or just giving them continued service in that space because they've made the connections, done the work. For me, it was kind of like, okay, bring you back to logistics, kind of honing in that before we send you back out to the field. So it's a great opportunity overall because again, you can express and voice your concerns or not your concerns, but your interests, but then they're gonna kinda marry you with what's a good fit for you.
And this has inspired you now to go the public affairs route.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have some, good interest in public affairs, and it's a great opportunity that I've learned from this experience, I've gained from this experience, so I'm excited about it.
So I know you're just beginning that track now, with the public affairs, being a loggy. What good advice do you have for sustainers out there to help get our voice out there? Having now done some experience with public affairs, how do we tie those together so that we can get our voices out there when it comes to sustainment?
Tell your story. That's something I learned a long time ago, and tell your story, tell the story. So a lot of people think they know what we do, but it's our job to communicate that in a very effective way of what we do. Storyboards, um, just saying, "Hey, here's the so what behind what we did. We moved X amount of fuel across this battle space. The impact of that is this." And that's, sustainment. That is ensuring the warfighter can pull the trigger. It's getting, right logistics where it needs to the point of need. And I would just say through different avenues, whether it's, talking to family readiness groups, just so the people closest to the soldiers know what's going on, and communicating to your senior leaders like, "Hey, sir, ma'am, this is what training got after. This is how it aligns to your priorities, to the initiatives of the Army, writ large." And just being able to that's how we can do it in practice, right? It doesn't take, a social media post always. It doesn't take, a video or reel. Those are ways to communicate, but just being able to say, "Okay, let's look at this. How can we share this with key stakeholders so they understand what we do and they have an idea of, wow, like you're really moving the needle in keeping us safe, protecting us, or being right good stewards by taxpayer dollars." So I would just say as a sustainer, even with our maneuverment, even with our maneuvering peers, we have to be able to say, okay, this is the action you're trying to take. This is how we enable that action. And this is how we're supporting you. Being able to communicate and articulate that in a clear and concise manner is a good way to practice that. And then it becomes second nature of like, okay, what's the so what behind it? And I think that translates down into leadership, to your organizations, because leaders are able then to communicate to their organizations to say, hey, this is what we need to accomplish, this is why it matters, and this is what we're gonna get out of it.
So, any final good advice when it comes to not just your fellowship program, but just any fellowship overall?
Know your job. Um, do your job and do it well, and then be a good teammate,
Mm.
always.
Then what about when it comes to just being sustainment? Like, any good advice for sustainers out
I would
there?
say the same. I was talking to a cadet just yesterday about, he's going to commission as a logistician, a logistics officer. I said, well, I commissioned as a quartermaster basic branch. I said, I think we're redefining what it means to be a multifunctional logistician, but whatever it is, do it well. And I think I learned that I went into a composite supply company as a young second lieutenant, and I was doing supply SSA activity. So know it and do it well. And then the rest will come. Be good at what you do. So always put your best foot forward, always present your best self, and then just be a good teammate. Because I've come across folks in my career that I've come across again, that we've been able to serve together again. And when a friend reaches out, just be always willing to help in good faith, because you never know when you might need them.
So it's been a great conversation we've had today. We went over a lot when it comes to just fellowship programs, going over the broadening opportunities, the BOP, and just really hearing about what makes yours, the General Omar Bradley Fellowship, truly unique. I imagine there's probably gonna be some questions out there. People are
Yeah.
like, okay, like I'm interested in this, and they hear this interview and they want to say, okay, maybe I can ask some questions. So where can people reach out to you if they want to have some follow up questions?
Find me on Global. Last name Poinsette, Poinsettee. First name Ephesian. No numbers associated with it. You can send me an email. You can shoot me a Teams message. I'm happy to be a resource to anyone seeking more information about the Bradley Fellowship in particular, or in just in general. I'm about my journey, and I'm happy to be of assistance where I can.
Well, thank you very much for that. It's been a great time to be able to talk with you today.
Mm.
Just able to sit down real quick, just to kind of go over this fellowship because I know for me, When I was going through it, I know I looked at so many different fellowship programs. I know the congressional one, and um, never thought I'd find my way into the Harding Fellowship. I mean, that was built, and then say this opportunity opened up.
Yeah.
So I'm very blessed and thankful to be able to have been selected as this first Harding Fellow for the sustainment community. And we joke, we're building this thing from the ground up
Mhm.
right now. But to anyone out there, hey, get out there and do a fellowship.
Yeah.
It really changes. It helps you to see, as we talked about earlier, your perspective on a lot of things, especially at higher levels of the force. So, but once again, just thank you for taking the time to come in today and sit down with me.
Absolutely. Glad to, like I said, open the aperture on the broadening fellowships and the opportunities, because there are broadening opportunities. And apply, because worst thing they could tell you is no, or redirect you to a different direction. But I would hate to see some broadening fellowships go unused. So definitely apply. Reach out, ask a question, talk to your branch manager, get some more insight from those that are in those positions. And like I said, happy to be a resource for anyone willing to talk.
Well, thank you very much. And to everyone out there, it'll be in the show notes, but go out and check out the Broadening Opportunity pamphlet. That'll be in the show notes for you. Check it out. You might find some broadening opportunities that you didn't even know existed, things that might, just see your interest, what you could be doing, especially if you are junior officer out there, especially when you're a lieutenant. Before you even become a captain, start saying, okay, if I'm going to do this command, when do I need to apply? As we talked about earlier in this episode, time is so important when you're going to apply for these different fellowship programs, and how you align your timeline. When we talked earlier in an earlier episode, is about with mentorship. Find yourself a good mentor out there that can help you through these different broadening opportunities. Like we've talked today, you're going to have a good leader who's going to go push you to find that different broadening opportunities. They might seek you out even and say, hey, I think this is going to be really good for your career. You should apply for this. So go out, find someone who can help mentor you through these different things. Reach out to people like today who've done these fellowships already. Like, hey, what was that experience like for you? Because they're going to be able to help answer those tough questions to be able to help assist you along this journey. So I highly implore you, check that out. It's been a great conversation today, but that is all we have today, folks. As always, sustainment leaders start here. See you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of the LOGSTAT. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Please share this episode across your formation and leave us a review. If you have a topic you'd like here discussed, then please reach out to us at armysustainment@army.mil or directly to me on Global at garett.h.pyle. Follow us on Facebook, X, and LinkedIn at Army Sustainment. We'll see you next time. Sustainment leaders start here.